Did you know that November is actually when experienced gardeners plant their most productive crops? It sounds backwards, but it's true. Today we're covering 30 specific crops that thrive when planted right now. You've probably been letting your garden sit empty every November, and number 23, those overwintering leeks, can survive 10-degree freezes while producing massive spring harvests. After 30 years of year-round gardening, I'm still amazed how many gardeners miss November's planting window completely. Fava beans, also called broad beans, are absolute powerhouses for November planting in zones 6 through 10. The variety Aqua Dulce Claudia is particularly exceptional because it's been bred specifically for fall sowing and cold tolerance. These hardy legumes actually prefer being planted in cool soil, developing robust root systems through winter that support heavy spring production. What makes favas unique is their ability to fix nitrogen while growing, enriching your soil as temperatures drop. Plant them 2 inches deep and 6 inches apart in double rows for maximum yield. They'll germinate slowly in cold soil, but establish strong roots before winter dormancy hits. Come early spring, when most gardeners are just thinking about planting, your favas will surge into growth, producing tender pods weeks before summer beans are even possible. The plants handle temperatures down to 15 degrees Fahrenheit once established, making them virtually indestructible in most winter gardens. Harvest the young pods whole when 3 inches long for the sweetest flavor, or wait for full-sized beans that taste incredible fresh or dried. Mâché, also known as corn salad, might be the most underappreciated winter green in American gardens. This incredibly cold-hardy crop thrives in zones 3 through 10, with the variety Vit being particularly reliable for November sowing. Unlike lettuce that struggles in freezing weather, Mâché actually improves in flavor after frost exposure, developing a sweet, nutty taste that's completely unique. Scatter the tiny seeds directly on prepared soil and barely cover them, as they need some light to germinate. Keep the seedbed consistently moist for the first 2 weeks, as germination can be slow in cold conditions. The rosettes stay compact and low to the ground, naturally protecting themselves from harsh weather. You can begin harvesting individual leaves in about 50 days, or wait for full rosettes that make beautiful winter salads. Mâché self-sows readily if you let a few plants flower in spring, ensuring you'll have volunteers for next winter's garden. In protected spots or under row cover, it survives temperatures below zero, continuing to produce fresh greens when everything else has frozen solid. Now, if you're finding this video helpful so far, I'd really appreciate it if you'd hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps us reach more gardeners like yourself, who would also find it so helpful to avoid these mistakes. All right, let's keep going. Asian greens like tatsoi and mizuna are November gardening secrets that transform winter gardens in zones 4 through 10. Tatsoi rosette forms beautiful dark green rosettes that hug the ground, protecting themselves from cold while remaining harvestable even under frost. These fast-growing greens actually prefer cool weather, developing better flavor and texture than summer-grown versions. Direct seed them in rows 12 inches apart, thinning to 6-inch spacing once seedlings establish. Both tatsoi and mizuna germinate quickly even in cold soil, often producing harvestable baby greens in just 3 weeks. The mature plants withstand temperatures into the teens when properly established, bouncing back from freezes that would destroy summer crops. Harvest outer leaves continuously while the center keeps producing, or cut entire rosettes that will often regrow for a second harvest. Mix different Asian greens in the same bed for varied textures and flavors in winter stir-fries and salads. Their mild, slightly peppery taste intensifies pleasantly with cold exposure, making November-planted greens far superior to those grown in warm weather. Winter lettuce varieties like Arctic King and Winter Density are specifically bred to thrive in zones 4 through 10 when planted in November. These remarkable cultivars possess genetic traits that allow them to photosynthesize efficiently in low-light conditions, while tolerating temperatures that would kill regular lettuce. Plant seeds a quarter-inch deep in well-prepared beds, spacing them 8 inches apart for full-sized heads, or closer for cut-and-come-again harvesting. Winter lettuce grows slowly but steadily through cold months, developing thick, succulent leaves with exceptional sweetness. The key to success is protecting plants with row cover or cold frames when temperatures drop below 25 degrees. Arctic King forms dense butterhead-type heads that resist freezing damage, while Winter Density produces upright romaine hearts perfect for winter Caesar salads. Water sparingly during cold periods, as excess moisture combined with cold causes rot. These varieties bolt much later than standard lettuce when spring arrives, extending your harvest season well into warm weather. November-planted winter lettuce provides fresh salads from December through May in most climates, eliminating expensive store-bought greens during peak price months. Arugula thrives when November-planted in zones 4 through 10, with the variety Astro showing exceptional cold tolerance and slow bolting characteristics. This peppery green actually develops its best flavor in cool conditions, becoming unpleasantly hot and bitter when grown in summer heat. Broadcast seeds thickly for baby greens or space them 2 inches apart for larger leaves, covering with just an 1/8 inch of soil. Germination occurs reliably even in 40-degree soil, with seedlings emerging in 7 to 10 days. The plants grow vigorously in cool weather, producing harvestable leaves in just 3 weeks from seeding. Arugula survives temperatures down to 20 degrees once established, often persisting through entire winters in protected locations. Harvest by cutting leaves 2 inches above ground level, allowing regrowth for multiple harvests from the same planting. The flavor becomes more complex and nutty after frost exposure, transforming from simply spicy to deeply savory. Succession plant every 2 weeks through November for continuous baby arugula harvests all winter long. Spinach varieties like Bloomsdale and Winter Bloomsdale are perfectly suited for November planting in zones 3 through 10. These cold-adapted cultivars develop slowly through winter, storing sugars that create incredibly sweet leaves come spring. Plant seeds 1/2 inch deep and 1 inch apart, thinning to 4-inch spacing once true leaves appear. November-planted spinach develops extensive root systems during winter that support explosive spring growth before bolting begins. The plants tolerate temperatures below 20 degrees when mulched, with some varieties surviving near 0 under snow cover. Winter Bloomsdale features heavily savoyed leaves that shed water and resist disease in wet winter conditions. Begin harvesting outer leaves when plants reach 4 inches tall, or wait for full spring maturity when plants produce abundantly before flowering. Spinach planted now avoids leaf miners and other warm season pests while developing superior flavor through cold exposure. The overwintered plants produce earlier and heavier yields than spring-planted spinach, often providing harvests from March through May. Kale becomes even more nutritious and delicious when November planted in zones 3 through 10, with Winter Boar and Red Russian being standout varieties. These ultra-hardy brassicas actually require cold exposure to develop their sweetest flavor, converting starches to sugars as a natural antifreeze mechanism. Space transplants 18 inches apart or direct seed and thin to proper spacing once seedlings establish. Winter Boar produces extremely frilly blue-green leaves that withstand ice and snow, while Red Russian develops purple-tinged leaves with exceptional tenderness. Both varieties survive temperatures near 0 when properly established, continuing to produce new growth whenever temperatures rise above freezing. The plants grow slowly through winter, but maintain harvestable leaves constantly, providing fresh greens when little else is available. Harvest from the bottom up, taking older leaves while the center continues producing. Kale planted in November avoids most pest problems and develops incredible sweetness that makes even kale skeptics into converts. The overwintered plants explode with growth in early spring, producing abundantly until summer heat triggers flowering. Overwintering carrots like Napoli and Merida, planted in zones 3 through 9, develop extraordinary sweetness through winter cold exposure. November planting allows carrots to size up partially before winter, then resume growth for early spring harvest when they're sweetest. Sow seeds 1/4 inch deep in loose, stone-free soil, thinning to 2-inch spacing once seedlings develop true leaves. The key is timing planting so carrots reach baby size before hard freezes arrive. These varieties tolerate soil temperatures down to 20 degrees when mulched heavily with straw or leaves. The cold exposure converts starches to sugars, creating carrots far sweeter than any summer harvest. Napoli produces uniform, bright orange roots with exceptional cold tolerance, while Merida develops long, slender carrots perfect for deeper soils. Cover beds with row cover or cold frames for easier winter harvesting when soil freezes. Spring-harvested, overwintered carrots have an almost candy-like sweetness that makes them perfect for fresh eating. The roots store perfectly in the ground all winter, providing fresh carrots exactly when stored roots from fall are running out. Beets for early spring harvest thrive when November planted in zones 4 through 9, with Detroit dark red showing exceptional overwintering ability. Plant seeds 1/2 inch deep and 2 inches apart in well-prepared beds enriched with compost. November planted beets germinate slowly in cool soil, but establish strong root systems before winter dormancy. The young plants tolerate temperatures to 20 degrees when protected with mulch or row cover. Growth essentially stops during the coldest months, but roots remain viable and resume development with spring warmth. These overwintered beets mature weeks before spring plantings are possible, filling the hungry gap when stored vegetables are depleted. Detroit dark red produces uniformly round, deep red roots with outstanding sweetness after cold exposure. The greens also remain harvestable through mild winters, providing 2 crops from 1 planting. Harvest spring beets when golf ball sized for peak tenderness, or leave them to size up fully before summer heat arrives. Winter's cold exposure eliminates the earthy flavor some people dislike in beets, leaving pure sweetness. Radishes are perfect for November planting in zones 4 through 10, with French breakfast and winter radish varieties providing quick rewards. These fast-growing roots can mature in as little as 25 days, even in cool November conditions. Plant seeds 1/2 inch deep and 1 inch apart, expecting germination within a week, even in cold soil. French breakfast produces mild, elongated roots with white tips that stay crisp and sweet in cool weather. Winter radishes like daikon or black Spanish need more time, but develop massive roots with incredible storage capability. November planted radishes avoid flea beetles and root maggots that plague spring crops while developing better texture in cool conditions. The plants tolerate light freezes once established, though row cover extends the harvest period significantly. Succession plant every 10 days through November for continuous harvests into winter. These cool-grown radishes lack the harsh heat that makes summer radishes unpleasantly hot, instead offering crisp, juicy roots with pleasant, mild spice. Turnips excel with November planting in zones 4 through 9, with purple top-white globe producing both edible roots and nutritious greens. These incredibly cold-hardy plants actually prefer cool soil for germination and early growth. Sow seeds 1/4 inch deep and thin to 4-inch spacing for full-sized roots, or leave crowded for baby turnips and greens. Germination occurs reliably even in 40-degree soil, with seedlings emerging in about a week. The plants withstand temperatures into the low 20s once established, with flavor improving after frost exposure. Purple top white globe develops smooth, round roots with sweet white flesh and purple shoulders where exposed to sunlight. Harvest greens continuously while roots develop, as both become sweeter with cold exposure. November planted turnips avoid the cabbage root maggots that destroy spring plantings while developing superior texture. The roots store perfectly in the ground through winter in zone 7 and warmer. providing fresh vegetables exactly when you need them most. Parsley deserves November planting in zones 4 through 9, with Italian flatleaf being particularly cold-hardy and flavorful. This biennial herb actually prefers cool weather establishment, developing stronger plants than spring sowings. Soak seeds overnight before planting 1/4 inch deep, as germination can take 3 weeks even in ideal conditions. November planted parsley grows slowly through winter, but establishes deep tap roots that support abundant spring growth. The plants survive temperatures near 10 degrees once established, especially when protected with mulch around their crowns. Italian flatleaf produces broader, more flavorful leaves than curly varieties, while showing superior cold tolerance. Harvest outer stems continuously, cutting at soil level to encourage new growth from the center. Parsley planted now provides fresh herbs all winter in mild climates and explodes with growth come spring. The overwintered plants remain productive through the entire following growing season, before flowering in their second year. This single November planting can provide nearly 18 months of continuous harvest, making it one of the most productive herbs you can grow. Cilantro excels with November planting in zones 4 through 10, with slow bolt varieties extending harvest significantly. This cool season herb actually prefers cold weather, developing better flavor and slower bolting than summer plantings. Direct seed 1/4 inch deep in rows 12 inches apart, or broadcast for thick stands of baby cilantro. November planted cilantro germinates in cool soil and grows steadily through winter in mild climates. The plants tolerate temperatures to 20 degrees when established, often surviving under snow to resume growth in spring. Slow bolt varieties resist flowering longer than standard cilantro, providing extended leaf harvests before producing coriander seeds. Harvest leaves frequently to encourage bushier growth and delay flowering. The cool-grown leaves develop complex flavor without the soapy taste some people detect in heat-stressed cilantro. Succession plant every 2 weeks through November for continuous winter harvests in zones 8 and warmer. Even in colder zones, November plantings overwinter as small plants that provide the earliest possible spring cilantro, weeks before spring seeding is possible. Mustard greens are November planting champions in zones 4 through 10, with giant red producing gorgeous purple-tinged leaves with exceptional spice. These ultra-hardy greens actually improve in flavor after frost exposure, developing complexity beyond simple heat. Plant seeds 1/4 inch deep and thin to 6 inches for full-sized plants, or leave crowded for baby greens. November planted mustard grows vigorously in cool weather, producing harvestable leaves in just 30 days. The plants withstand temperatures below 20 degrees once established, continuing to produce whenever temperatures rise above freezing. Giant red develops beautiful purple-red leaves that add color to winter gardens while providing vitamin-rich greens. Harvest young leaves for salads or mature leaves for cooking, as both become sweeter and less harsh with cold exposure. These November-planted greens avoid flea beetles that pepper spring plantings with holes while developing superior texture. The overwintered plants produce abundantly in early spring before bolting, often providing harvests from December through May. Horseradish planted in November in zones 3 through 9 establishes roots perfectly for explosive growth next spring. This perennial condiment plant actually benefits from fall planting, as root pieces planted now develop stronger root systems than spring plantings. Plant root cuttings 4 inches deep and 18 inches apart in deep, loose soil where they can remain permanently. Big Top variety produces especially large, straight roots with intense flavor perfect for homemade prepared horseradish. November planted roots remain dormant through winter, but establish feeding roots that support vigorous spring emergence. The plants are virtually indestructible once established, surviving the coldest winters to produce fresh roots annually. Harvest begins the second fall after planting, when roots reach finger thickness or larger. The fresh roots provide incomparably potent horseradish that makes store-bought versions seem bland. Once established, Horseradish produces for decades with minimal care, making November planting an investment in years of harvest. Control spread by harvesting all roots annually or planting in buried containers, as established plants can become invasive. Rhubarb crowns planted in November in zones 3 through 8 establish better than spring plantings because they satisfy dormancy requirements naturally. Crimson red variety produces brilliant red stalks with exceptional tartness, perfect for pies and preserves. Plant crowns with buds just at soil surface in deeply prepared holes enriched with aged compost, spacing plants 3 feet apart. November planting allows crowns to experience necessary winter chill while developing extensive root systems before spring growth begins. The dormant crowns tolerate extreme cold, actually requiring freezing temperatures to break dormancy properly. These November-planted crowns emerge vigorously in spring, though you should resist harvesting the first year to ensure establishment. By the second spring, you can harvest lightly, with full harvests beginning year 3 and continuing for 20 years or more. Rhubarb planted now avoids the transplant shock common with spring planting, as roots establish while tops remain dormant. Established plants produce dozens of pounds annually with minimal care, making this November investment pay dividends for decades. The early spring stalks provide the year's first fruit-like harvest when nothing else is producing. Asparagus crowns excel with November planting in zones 3 through 8, with Jersey Night producing exceptional spear quality and disease resistance. Fall crown planting allows root establishment during dormancy, resulting in stronger plants than spring plantings. Dig trenches 12 inches deep and wide, adding 4 inches of compost mixed with soil, before placing crowns 18 inches apart. November planted crowns develop extensive root systems through winter that support vigorous spring emergence. Jersey Night, an all-male variety, produces thicker spears and heavier yields than older varieties while showing superior rust resistance. Cover crowns with 2 inches of soil initially, gradually filling trenches as spears emerge in spring. These November plantings often establish faster than spring plantings, sometimes allowing light harvests a year earlier. Resist harvesting the first 2 years to ensure plants develop energy reserves for decades of production. Properly planted asparagus beds produce for 20 to 30 years, making November planting one of your garden's best long-term investments. The spring spears from established beds provide gourmet vegetables exactly when fresh produce prices peak. Spring bulb flowers like crocus and snowdrops planted now in zones 3 through 9 boost next year's garden productivity by attracting crucial early pollinators. These small bulbs need winter's cold to bloom, making November planting essential for spring flowers. Plant crocus corms 3 inches deep and snowdrop bulbs 4 inches deep, clustering them in groups for maximum visual and pollinator impact. These early bloomers emerge when little else is flowering, providing critical nectar for bees emerging from winter dormancy. The hungry pollinators you attract stay in your garden, ensuring better fruit set on early crops like peas and strawberries. Crocus and snowdrops naturalize readily, multiplying each year without any effort on your part. The flowers appear even through snow, signaling spring's arrival weeks before other plants wake up. Plant them around fruit trees, berry bushes, and vegetable garden edges where they won't interfere with cultivation. These one-time November plantings provide decades of early pollinator support, directly increasing yields of every crop requiring bee pollination. The cheerful blooms also lift gardeners' spirits after long winters, making them valuable for both practical and emotional reasons. Winter rye cover crop transforms November planting into soil improvement that boosts next year's entire garden productivity in zones 3 through 10. This hardy grain germinates in cold soil and grows whenever temperatures exceed 38 degrees, accumulating biomass through winter. Broadcast seed at 4 pounds per 1,000 square feet on cleared beds, raking lightly to ensure soil contact. November planted rye develops extensive root systems that prevent erosion while scavenging nutrients that would otherwise leach away. The vigorous growth suppresses winter weeds naturally, eliminating spring weeding work before planting summer crops. Winter-rise roots penetrate compacted soil layers, improving drainage and creating channels for next year's vegetable roots. The accumulated biomass adds substantial organic matter when tilled under in spring, feeding soil organisms that support plant health. Cut or till rye 3 weeks before planting summer crops, allowing time for decomposition. This single November planting improves soil structure, adds organic matter, prevents erosion, suppresses weeds, and captures nutrients, making every square foot more productive next season. The investment of a few dollars in seed returns tremendous value in improved soil health. Crimson clover cover crop planted in November, zones 6 through 10 fixes nitrogen while preparing beds for next year's heavy feeding crops. Dixie variety establishes quickly in cool weather, developing the root nodules that capture atmospheric nitrogen. Broadcast seed at ½ pound per 1,000 square feet on prepared soil, ensuring good seed-to-soil contact for best germination. November planted clover grows slowly through winter, but establishes the bacterial relationships necessary for nitrogen fixation. The plants tolerate light freezes once established, continuing to grow whenever temperatures moderate. By spring, crimson clover produces stunning red flowers that attract beneficial insects while adding beauty to dormant beds. Each plant can fix up to 150 pounds of nitrogen per acre, equivalent to expensive fertilizer applications. Till plants under just as flowering begins, when nitrogen content peaks, but before seeds form. This incorporated biomass releases nitrogen slowly as it decomposes, feeding summer crops naturally. The root channels improve soil structure, while the decomposing vegetation feeds earthworms and beneficial microorganisms. November clover planting essentially creates free fertilizer while improving every aspect of soil health for maximum summer productivity. Hairy vetch cover crop excels with November planting in zones 5 through 9, with purple bounty variety showing exceptional winter hardiness and nitrogen production. This vigorous legume establishes in cool soil and continues growing through winter in mild climates. Plant seeds 1 inch deep at 1 pound per 1,000 square feet, or mix with winter rye for combined benefits. November planted vetch develops slowly initially, but establishes the root nodules necessary for nitrogen fixation before winter. The plants survive temperatures near zero once established, resuming growth vigorously in early spring. Purple bounty can fix up to 200 pounds of nitrogen per acre, more than most legume cover crops. The vining growth creates thick mulch that suppresses weeds while protecting soil from winter erosion. Beautiful purple flowers in spring attract pollinators and beneficial insects before you till plants under. Incorporate vetch 3 weeks before planting summer crops, allowing decomposition time. This November planting provides free nitrogen, improves soil structure, suppresses weeds, and attracts beneficials, dramatically improving next year's garden productivity with minimal effort or expense. Perennial bunching onions like evergreen hardy white provide perpetual harvests when November planted in zones 3 through 9. These incredibly hardy alliums establish better in cool weather, developing the strong root systems that support years of production. Plant starts or divisions 4 inches apart in well-amended soil where they can remain permanently. November planted bunching onions establish roots through winter, emerging vigorously in early spring for immediate harvest. Evergreen hardy white tolerates extreme cold, surviving temperatures well below zero to regrow each spring. These plants never form bulbs, instead multiplying into clumps, providing endless green onions. Harvest by cutting leaves above the white base, or pulling individual shoots from expanding clumps. Each original plant multiplies into dozens within 2 years, providing more green onions than most families can use. The established clumps require virtually no maintenance beyond occasional division when overcrowded. These November plantings provide fresh onion flavor from early spring through late fall, eliminating the need to repeatedly plant green onions. The perennial nature means one November planting provides decades of harvests, making them incredibly space-efficient for permanent garden spots. Shallots flourish with November planting in zones 4 through 10, with French red variety producing exceptional bulbs with complex, refined flavor. These gourmet alliums require winter cold exposure for proper bulb development, making fall planting essential for success. Plant individual bulbs pointed end up, 1 inch deep, and 6 inches apart in loose, well-draining soil enriched with compost. November-planted shallots establish roots throughout winter while remaining dormant above ground, preparing for explosive spring growth. French red produces clusters of copper-skinned bulbs with pink-tinged flesh and sweet, mild flavor prized by chefs. The plants tolerate cold better than onions, surviving temperatures below 20 degrees when mulched properly. Each bulb planted now multiplies into 5 to 10 bulbs by summer, providing tremendous return on investment. Shallots mature earlier than onions, usually ready for harvest when tops yellow in early summer. The harvested bulbs store exceptionally well, lasting up to 8 months in cool, dry conditions. Save your largest, healthiest bulbs for replanting next November, gradually developing strains perfectly adapted to your garden while ensuring perpetual harvest from this single November planting effort. And now for the bonus tip gardeners swear by for maximizing November plantings. Create micro-tunnels using bent PVC hoops and floating row cover over your November plantings. But here's the secret. Add water-filled milk jugs painted black between plants as thermal mass. These jugs absorb heat during sunny days, even in winter, then release it slowly at night, creating a microclimate up to 10 degrees warmer than outside air. This simple addition extends your growing season by weeks on both ends, allowing November plantings to establish faster and produce earlier. The milk jugs also provide wind protection for tender seedlings, while the black color absorbs maximum solar radiation. Replace water with hot water during extreme cold snaps for emergency frost protection. Gardeners using this technique report harvesting salad greens through entire winters in Zone 6 and getting spring harvest 3 weeks earlier than unprotected plants. The total cost is under $20 for a 4x8 bed, but the increased productivity from better establishment and extended harvests can double your yields. This one simple trick transforms marginal November planting success into reliable winter abundance. Thanks for sticking with me through the entire video. If you found this helpful, give it a like, subscribe for more gardening tips, and check out our other videos on growing a better garden.